Hi, On Orbit listeners. We have a special guest host for this episode. My colleague and Via Satellite executive editor Jeffrey Hill hosts this week to interview the winner of SatShow's 10th annual Startup Space Entrepreneur Pitch Contest, Matteo Vismara, CEO and co-founder of SatEnlight. Based in Milan, Italy, SatEnlight is an optical communications tech company with a terminal that stacks multiple beams on top of each other, so it's arranged in what looks like a multi-layer spiral staircase of lasers. Matteo and his co-founder developed the product based on years of scientific research in physics and work based at the CERN Large Hadron Collider in Geneva. In this interview, Matteo explains why he chose the risk of starting a private company over the safety of almost guaranteed university tenure, the details of a slide deck tip that he received during pitch coaching that helped him win Startup Space, how Italy is building off of its deep legacy in cutting-edge space science, and why he believes the SatEnlight terminal could actually help create new standards for optical transmissions in space. My name is Rachel Jewett, and you're listening to On Orbit, the podcast that asks, what's our future in space?
Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very special episode of On Orbit. My name is Jeffrey Hill. I'm executive editor of Via Satellite and executive chair of the SatShow. I am hosting today for Rachel Jewett, who is on her way to Space Symposium. But I am here today with the winner, the grand prize winner of our 10th annual Startup Space Entrepreneur Pitch Contest, which was held just 2 weeks ago at the SatShow event in Washington, D.C. I'm here with Matteo Vismara. He's the CEO and co-founder of SatEnlight. Matteo, good to see you again. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to see you.
So we're going to learn about SatEnlight. SatEnlight is an optical communications company. It's developing a terminal that employs a unique method of stacking or superimposing different vortices on the same optical link. This is allowing for much more powerful and efficient transmission. It utilizes a property of light called optical angular momentum. SatEnlight is confident in the science behind this transmission technique that it thinks it could become a new standard in optical transmission, which has been a very popular technology in the industry for its potential to transmit data. It seems our startup space judges also see potential that it could be a new standard. So we're going to learn about how this technology works in just a minute. But first, I want to get to know the backstory of the company and learn about the person behind our grand prize winning startup. Matteo, again, like I said, great to see you. It was a fantastic pitch you gave at SatShow. I mentioned this when you had won the award that you are our first winner from Italy. The company is based in Milan, Italy, which many of you probably know from the Olympics. I was just curious, before you even start, Matteo, did you get to see any of the Olympics before you came over?
No, unfortunately not, because you have to work a lot being a startup founder. So actually, I went around the city. There was a very nice energy. I saw some events, but they were side events. Then, of course, I followed the Olympics on the TV.
So you were working hard on your pitch and you didn't get to see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no.
It's your fault.
Well,
it's your fault.
It's a good trade-off, right? Like you did well, despite the distraction of this massive Olympic event. So I want to go back, Matteo, how did you personally start getting into this kind of technology? What made you pursue this kind of advanced study of how optical transmission works?
Yeah, well, I think that everything starts from the curiosity. I'm a physicist, and I studied this matter in my master degree. Indeed, I have a master degree on this like technology, because I gave this thesis on this kind of optical terminals for satellite communication. So I started studying it in the optical instrumentation lab here at the University of Milan. And then we decided to found a company together with the professors that are inside this lab, Marco Potenza, Bruno Paroli, Paolo Milani, with my tutor, Mirko Siano, but also with my co-founder, that is Matteo Mirigliano, that in the meantime decided to quit his job and come back to the university. He was my tutor at the third year of the physics of matter laboratory, and he decided to quit because he saw in this technology that he already knew a lot of potential for this exploding new market in the new space economy.
Mm-hmm. And you're referring to your co-founder and CTO, another Matteo Morigliano. And
exactly.
Your background as a physicist is actually interesting because we see, especially on the startup side, a lot of engineers. People come out of engineering school, but you're coming at it from like the science angle of it. And I always think that like satellite technology itself is just kind of it defies physics at some level. Do you interact with engineers, or were you like completely involved in the science of it? How did you interact with the engineering side? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, of course. There is the why, and then there is the how.
Right.
And of course, once you figure out the why, then you have to, okay, let's settle down the how. And of course, Matteo Mirigliano, with his let's say expertise in SAT microelectronics, that was the let's say working experience he had 2 years before he decided to quit. Was on, let's say, the engineering part. So process engineering, and how effectively a kind of prototype and a product can, let's say, be created. So of course, engineering is a thing, and you cannot think about even prototype or have a product without, let's say, this part.
Yeah. I want to go back to, you said that this, studying this was part of your natural studies years before the competition. And I want to point to like your first slide in your pitch, you show like a visual model of how this, the optical angular momentum properties of light work with your terminal. And to describe it to people, it looks like a spiral staircase with like slightly different like levels. Like there's like another staircase between the staircases. How did you figure this out? Like, what was the moment where you were like, we can do it this way?
Yeah, this is important. This is an interesting question. Thank you for the question, because actually it is something I really believe into, because we were actually studying in this instrumentation lab, how to confine beams of protons at CERN. And to do the confinement of beams of protons at CERN, at a certain point, we thought about the use of X-rays with this kind of vortices of radiation. And then we discovered that actually they had some good property also for telecommunication and satellite communications. And so we started very, very quickly to start with the kind of free space optics, let's say, instrumentation, to try to do communication point to point into the lab, and then between one rooftop and another to communicate. And that's how it was born. Actually, it is something really interesting, in my opinion, because it shows how important is, let's say, contamination. That's, I believe, is the key for any kind of science. Contamination is is the most precious thing when you are in a lab and you talk with the people with different point of views. That's the way I do believe that science should be done.
Yeah. And you had mentioned CERN, the collider tunnel system,
Yeah.
which has been around since I was a teenager and has sparked like many a science fiction novel and movie, and also science nonfiction as well. It's just fascinating that we continue to hear stories that emerge from it and new technologies. You know, you being in the science world, you could have published this as a paper, probably have gotten tenure somewhere, but you decided to start a company.
Yeah.
What made you decide to do that? What was like the catalyst moment for you to say, you know what, I could get a safe job at a university, I could publish a paper, but I'm gonna take the riskier route and start a company. What made you decide to do that?
Look, I always tried to put myself in a position that could allow me to, let's say, put on the ground what I believe is my potential. I don't want to sound like too bold, let's say, but I do believe that I have a vision, and I really believe that my vision one day could, let's say, reach all the people and in general the world, and could um, create, even if in a very vertical niche, a better world. That was the drive, to be the leader of a team of strong people that have the same vision to create a new standard for satellite communication. And for me is even more, let's say, precious than a secure job position at the university. I mean, I do believe that I have high ambitions, and I cannot accept, let's say, a solution that, of course, is secure, but probably doesn't bring you to the stars, let's say.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense to me. So before you applied to startup space, you had already built up an impressive portfolio of partners. You know, there's been a lot of work done in the company. It's not like this is where the first person you approach. When we did get your application, it was interesting because we had noticed there are a lot of optical technology companies starting to emerge, where we were seeing a trend. But you know, this was the first time we were like, oh, this is kind of interesting. It's like a new idea, new approach to it. And you know, it stood out pretty clearly. I wanted to talk to you about when you get accepted to the competition as a finalist competitor, and our competition director Rafferty Jackson takes all of the startups and brings you through pitch coaching. And I'm just curious because I know Rafferty. I know she really works hard on that process. And sometimes she can be a bit blunt, like about the pitch, right? What is it like as a scientist putting this together in the pitch and then having somebody like completely work your pitch into something different? Like, what is that like to receive that criticism?
Okay. I mean, I am really into science, and I'm really into the things we are doing. But before Rafferty, I met a lot of people. A lot of people. I have to mention also Antonio Alessandrino, that is a mentor we had and we still have, that worked a lot in refining, let's say, the way I present the technology to the others. Because actually, I could talk for hours and hours about the technology, and at a certain point, of course, the people that listen to me start to start to sleep at a certain point.
Yeah.
So of course I had to refine the way I present it. So I arrived to Rafferty, to the meeting with Rafferty, with already a refined pitch. But actually, what I noticed was the still light approach I had. Rafferty helped me, and Caleb also helped me in understand that actually I should have been more direct, also towards the audience, but of course the judges. And she said, no, I want your product on the first slide. Because, for example, my first slide was just the logo. And on it, I was going to present myself. But Rafferty told me, no, you have to be direct. You have to show what you're doing. And that was, I think, the most important advice. Because when I was on the stage, I knew that I had to, let's say, go deep and be direct towards the judges. And I do believe that this was one of the reasons, probably, of my win.
Yeah. Yeah. Rafferty and I often have, we have a saying that like the worst first question you can get from judges is, what is it that you sell? Like, because you've explained this whole theory, but then they don't know what the core technology or the product is. So I would say that's pretty good advice. And I actually have your slide deck that I'm like looking at right now. You have right on the front page, you have the terminal, and you have it connecting with a satellite through a laser optical beam. But then you see these like vortices around it, and it's curious, makes you curious. And then like right on the next page is the problem, right? Like right next slide is like, here's, we've got like an increase in capacity demand from 6 terabits per second to 51 by 2032. And like, how are we going to move all that traffic, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, as a scientist, and we see this a lot from startups, as scientist or engineer, how do you like pull back on the stuff that can maybe excite you personally and put forward this sort of business model that's going to attract the judges? Like, how do you balance, how much, when you were preparing this pitch, how much did you balance, like, we know the technology is cool and we also need money? How did you balance that when forming your pitch?
No, there's this thing. I do believe that if you just look at the technology, because of course the technology is very, let's say, pretty, is very nice, is something that is new. Yeah, you're right. But if you behave as a scientist, then probably you close yourself into an ivory tower, and you are not closing the circle. I do remember a quote from Stephen Hawking that once said that actually science is finished when you bring it out of the university, you bring it to the people, and you help the world to be a better place.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I do believe that we in Italy had a lot of great scientists that were also great, let's say, businessmen. And one, above all, was Guglielmo Marconi. That is curious because he started to do, let's say, this kind of experiments and started the company 150 years ago, more or less. So, like is a kind of wheel that is turning, and I'm here again with a new optical communication technology, maybe and hopefully, let's say, following his path. So how to balance? Actually, knowing that yes, the technology is cool, but if you are not selling anything, you just have something that you could close it into a nice, I don't know, into a nice closet and close it up. So basically, was a work, and heavy work we did into, let's say, looking into the need of the market, trying to understand what are the needs, what is also the ecosystem. How is the ecosystem growing? I mean, it was the third year in a row that I was in SatEnlight. I came in 2023 to, let's say, start to see around as a silent guy, as a silent scientist looking around, also the fair, participating to a lot of conference meetings, because I wanted to hear about, about all the technologies in the optical world. Then 2025, I started doing more, let's say, questions, also moving around the fair and asking also to the potential, actors. Hey, but do you have optical communication in your roadmap? Are you interested in this kind of technology that potentially could, emerge from my research? And then, of course, this year, I hope that's the confirmation of what we are doing actually. So
Yeah.
yes, to be humble, I would say that's the key to balance the technology and the market, because we still have a long way in front of us to reach the market. So that's with being humble, you can create something big.
Yeah. A lot of the startups this year knew each other coming into the competition. I mean, you had some startups that that have pitched quite a bit. Like you had Rama from SatEnlight, who's known on the startup circuit. You had Martin Soltau from Space Solar. We even had, you weren't the only optical technology company on the bill. We also had another company, Ravi Optics, which they're more focused on the physical form factor side of things. How confident were you going? How confident were you going into the competition? Did you feel like, okay, I have a shot, or wow, these people have been pitching and they know what they're doing?
Well, I mean, my family always taught me that I shouldn't have the fear of anything, and of course, I know the value of what we do, and the value of myself. So, of course, I was not fearing anything, but when I started hearing to Rama and to all the other, because Rama was the first, and I remember his speech very well, but all the others, competitors, I was impressed by even just the track record. I mean, Rama and his CTO out of Google, SpaceX, NASA, and I was like, okay. I mean, I'm just a physicist, but that's not just a physicist actually, because that's it. We are doing cool things, and you never have to go on the stage thinking that they already won. Actually, I was on the stage thinking about the prize that I wanted to raise, and so that's the way I think you can win.
Yeah. Were you happy with your pitch when you developed it? And please don't be modest. I know everyone's like, oh, were you happy with it? Or did you walk off stage thinking, okay, I got that. I
Yeah,
got it.
yeah. I was happy. It happened sometimes that I came off the stage not happy at all. I remember once I was in Oxford pitching my company, and at a certain point my mind went blank completely. I was looking at the audience, and at a certain point I said, "Okay, I don't remember what to say." So of course, also experience is part of the process. I pitched a lot also because we just closed a round of investment. So the technology that I present is in my mind, also in my mouth, in terms of words that I use, and this kind of errors don't occur anymore. But of course, the let's say emotion could be dangerous, and so actually, there's this thing that when I was in front of the judges and I started presenting, I felt like Trump, and I was like, okay, this is the time. This is the time.
Yeah. And I saw your pitch. I also noticed that while you were pitching, I saw a lot of people I knew from the European space industry come by
Yeah.
and check it out. Um, and our judges, which I got to tell the listeners here, like this was a tough panel of judges. I think 3 out of the 5 have been startup space judges since we started this. I think like Mark Boggett, Michael Mealing. There was, it was a tough group. We also had one new judge who we brought in, Mark Spotto from Razor's Edge. their reaction was like the exact reaction you want out of a pitch, where they were like, okay, I want to learn more about this. I'm interested, right? Like they see no questions about, I mean, they asked you questions about your business model, but really it was like they were really interested in that first and second and third slide that you showed with how the technology works. I don't think they, some of them hadn't seen that yet. What was, I gave you your scores, the reaction from the contest, but did you get any reaction from anybody else from your pitch who approached you maybe afterward?
Yes, actually, you know, um, Italian people really love to do, let's say, party. And for me, already being accepted for the competition was a big thing. So, I mean, of course, I was there to win. But for me, being on the stage was already a big thing. And so I invited a lot of people. And all the people I met, I was like, oh, look, at 10 o'clock, please come, because at the Unveiled Theater is going there's going to be the competition. So, of course, I invited a lot of people. A lot of people did pictures, took pictures, and they were there also to cheer me and to sustain me, and I really appreciate it. I mean, I won't make any name, because otherwise I'm going to forget someone. But I felt like a lot of the let's say the Italian ecosystem, the ecosystem of the people I know, that was there to behind me, to say, okay, Italy is present. Italy has something to say. Let's go, SatEnlight, because we are all with you.
That's great. That's excellent. I mentioned at the top, you are our first grand prize winner from Italy, but certainly not our first competitor from Italy. All eyes are on Europe right now. Everybody wants to do business in Europe on the space segment and satellite segment side. Italy has a long history of scientific and engineering contributions to the industry. And what I want to know is what is the support like for space startups right now? Is this the time, if you are a younger Italian or older Italian entrepreneur and you're starting your own company, is this the time to do it? Do you feel like this is like a new golden moment for the industry in Europe?
Look, of course, the answer is yes. Is quite recently, we saw the European Union approving the UA Inc. So there is a lot of things happening around the startup environment. And I do believe that, in particular, not just because I'm a startupper, but also because I'm working in the space, let's say, SATCOM vertical, I feel like I'm on a wave. And yeah, it is a good moment, not just in Italy, but in general in Europe, because now there is a lot of attention to this new, let's say, domain that will be the domain, probably also for the next, let's say, sovereignty for the different countries. Because unfortunately, we see that the world is not, let's say, anymore the word of 90s, or the 2000. So of course there are a lot of assets in the space that the single countries, and Europe, so also Europe, US, want to have. And yeah, but also in particular for what we are doing is a golden moment, because I mean, we are waiting the Artemis 2 crew to come back from the moon, but actually they have on board a system for optical communication. They send us the image of the moon with optical communication terminal. So
Right.
it is the real edge of the let's say technology what we are doing. So yes, it is a golden moment to be, let's say, SatEnlight, to be a startup working in this field.
Excellent. Well, moving forward, in addition to having your guaranteed pitch meetings with investors, you've got a big demo coming up, a demonstration. Can you talk a little bit about that? You've got a ground to ground or air to ground demo that you said you got scheduled for what's the last later half of this year?
Yeah. Yes, because actually our technology is approaching TRL 5. We are TRL 4 approaching TRL 5 thanks to some tests we are doing in urban environment here in the city of Milan on 3.5 kilometers with communication point to point on the ground. But actually, we planned a test with 10-kilometer distant test bed, point to point on the ground, and communication with drones. Actually, these two tests will allow us to reach TRL 7 for space communication. I'm talking about the TRL levels set by the ESA standards. So once we are doing this test, once we've done this test, we will be TRL 7. But actually, TRL 7 for space communication means also TRL higher than 7 for telco and let's say drone communication, because actually that's why we are planning this test. 10 kilometers of distance is actually the distance of 5G antennas of today communication, and tests with drones are also application for example, airborne application, because the Wi-Fi on a plane is guaranteed if the plane can connect with the satellites, and for example, satellites through the optical communication. So we plan to reach TRL 7 for space application by the end of this year, and maybe open also these two new verticals already in the next year with a go-to-market strategy that will allow us to be, let's say, more robust also in the evaluation of the company itself.
For those who are listening who are interested in maybe being a part of this, are you hiring? Are you building your team right now? Or are you just still in your sort of like core bare bones team mode?
No, well, we just hired two people with the money we obtained last December, closing a round of around 1 million, and these two new guys are helping us both on the technology part and also on the business part as the interface, let's say, with the clients, because we would like that our solution is tailored to the needs of the market, and of course, it is needed that someone, and in particular these new colleagues, someone goes around and asks to the market, okay, what are your pains and what are your gains? Who is the customer persona that we are serving? But actually, we plan to hire more people very, very soon. I would say more or less in 6 months, we will open a new round of hiring, because of course, SatEnlight is let's say, growing very fast. And we need a lot of people that want to impose the next standard. This is an important thing, the next standard for the optical communication. It is something that I try to make evident during the pitch. We are not going to change the let's say, the infrastructure. We are going to level it up, because
Right.
any optical terminal through our technology can be enabled to higher data rates and higher security. And we do believe that actually our technology, being also part of ESTOL, the working group of ESA for the definition of the standards for optical communication, we do believe that our technology will be the next standard for optical communication. So if you want to be part of this kind of process, yes, of course, take my name, follow me on LinkedIn, because of course we are going to hire very soon.
Well, Matteo, again, congratulations on winning Startup Space. You did an excellent job with your pitch. It seems that you've gotten some really, really great traction from it. You've got a busy year ahead. We look forward to having you back at SatEnlight and talking about things like how you are, with the challenges of scaling up, and that, you could just do more business if it, that next step where you're scaling up operations is very exciting. Well, we wish you luck with the demonstration, and again, thank you for being a part of it. It was great watching you pitch.
Thank you, Jeffrey, and thanks to all the organizers because it was a really massive event. I really enjoyed, and I can't wait to be there again in 2027.